The jungle moon of 7 hung in the black sky like a green and brown marble. From the observation deck of the Galactic Military Academy station, Cadet Park watched it slowly turn. In 12 hours, she would be down there. In 12 hours, the hunt would begin. Was small. She stood at 165 centimeters tall, and she weighed barely 60 kilograms. Among the massive alien cadets who filled the academy halls, she looked like a child. The warriors towered over her at nearly 3 meters. The soldiers were built like walking mountains of muscle and bone. Even the slim hunters moved with a deadly grace that made look slow and clumsy. She was the only human ever accepted into the academy. In 3 years, not a single day had passed without someone reminding her of that fact. The door behind her slid open. Heavy footsteps approached, did not turn around. She knew who it was by the sound alone. "Little human," said a deep voice, "are you praying to your weak gods?" Kept her eyes on the moon. "I do not pray, I plan." The warrior laughed. His name was, and he was considered the finest blade dancer in his generation. His 4 arms each held a curved sword. His red scales gleamed under the station lights. He had made it his personal mission to torment since her first day at the academy. "Plan all you want," said. "Tomorrow you will be marked as prey, and when you are, I will volunteer to hunt you. I will make your death slow. I will make it painful. And when I return with your skull, everyone will remember that humans do not belong among warriors." Finally turned. She looked up at the massive alien, her face calm and empty. "You talk a lot," she said. "I wonder if you will talk this much when you are dying." His eyes narrowed. For a moment, thought he might strike her right there. But attacking a fellow cadet outside of training was forbidden. Even would not risk expulsion so close to graduation. He leaned down until his face was centimeters from hers. His breath smelled like copper and meat. "Tomorrow," he whispered, "tomorrow, little human." He turned and walked away, watched him go. Then she turned back to the window and continued to study the moon. The next morning, all final-year cadets gathered in the Great Hall for the selection ceremony. Over 300 aliens from dozens of species stood in neat rows, stood alone at the end of her row. No one wanted to stand next to the human. The hunt master entered the hall. His name was, and he was ancient even by standards. His scales had faded from red to gray. His movements were slow but precise. He had survived over 500 proving hunts, first as prey, then as hunter, and finally as master. "The proving hunt is our oldest tradition," announced. His voice filled the hall without effort. "For 10,000 years, this hunt has separated the worthy from the weak. Those who survive will graduate as full warriors of the galactic military. Those who fall will be remembered with honor." He raised a box made of black stone. Inside were hundreds of small crystal spheres. "Each of you will take a sphere. If it glows blue, you are a hunter. If it glows red, you are prey. The hunt will last 10 standard days. Hunters must eliminate their designated prey. Prey must survive by any means necessary." The cadets moved forward one by one. Each reached into the box and pulled out a sphere. Blue, blue, red, blue. The colors flashed and faded as each cadet learned their fate. When's turn came, the hall went quiet. Every eye watched as she reached into the box. Her small fingers closed around a sphere. She pulled it out and held it up. Red, bright, burning red. Laughter erupted through the hall. Cadets from a dozen species pointed and mocked. The human was prey. Of course the human was prey. Raised his hand for silence. "The prey has been marked. Now, who will volunteer to hunt Cadet Park of the human species?" Stepped forward immediately. "I volunteer." Another joined him, then another, then a massive, then a second, 2 with their poison-tipped tails, 3 shadow hunters who seemed to flicker in and out of visibility. 10 hunters, all volunteers, all specifically requesting to hunt the human. This was not normal. Usually, hunters were assigned randomly to prey. Volunteers were rare. 10 volunteers for a single prey had never happened in the history of the Academy. Studied the volunteers. His old eyes moved too, something flickered in his expression. Perhaps it was pity, perhaps it was curiosity. 10 hunters for one prey, he said slowly. This is permitted by the old rules. Do you accept this hunt, Cadet Park? Looked at the 10 aliens who wanted to kill her, smiled at her with all his teeth. The flickered like shadows with eyes, the cracked their massive knuckles. I accept, said. More laughter. Someone called out that she was brave but stupid. Someone else said her skull would make a nice trophy. After the ceremony, returned to her small quarters. A message was waiting for her. Commander Rowe wanted to see her immediately. Rowe was the only other human on the station. He served as a diplomatic liaison between the Academy and the human colonial government. He was 50 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent his whole life trying to prove that humans deserved a place in the galactic community. When entered his office, Rowe stood up from his desk. His face was pale. 10 hunters, he said. 10 of the deadliest cadets in the Academy, all hunting you specifically. Do you understand what this means? It means they want me dead, said. It means they want to send a message. They want to prove that humans are weak, that we are prey animals who got lucky and stumbled into space, that we do not deserve to stand beside them. Rowe sat down heavily. I should never have supported your application. I was a fool to think you could change their minds. Sat across from him. She was calm. Too calm, Rowe thought she should be afraid. She should be begging for a way out. Commander said, do you know how humans survived on Earth? Rowe frowned. What? Earth was a hard world. We were not the fastest animals. We were not the strongest. We did not have claws or fangs or poison, but we survived. We survived ice ages. We survived predators 10 times our size. We survived plagues and famines and disasters that killed entire species. She leaned forward. Her dark eyes were steady. We survived because we refused to die. We survived because when something hunted us, we learned to hunt it back. We survived because humans do not know how to give up. Rowe stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was a sad, tired laugh. You sound like my grandmother, he said. She used to tell stories about tiger hunters in the old mountains, men who tracked beasts through snow with nothing but spears. My grandmother told me the same stories, said. She stood up. I am allowed one message before the hunt. I want to record something for my brother. Rowe nodded slowly. He activated the recording system and stepped back. Faced the camera. She thought about her brother, only 16 years old, waiting on the colony ship. He would only receive this message if she died. She smiled. She said in Korean, if you are watching this, I did not come home, but do not cry for me. Do not mourn. I need you to remember something. I need you to remember what our grandmother taught us. Humans are not prey. We have never been prey, and I am going to make sure the galaxy never forgets that. She ended the recording. 12 hours later, a drop pod carried her down to the jungle moon of 7. She landed in thick vegetation, surrounded by the sounds of alien creatures. The twin suns beat down on her through the canopy. She had 12 hours before the hunters would be released. Opened her survival kit, a knife, a water purifier, emergency rations, a medical injector. She picked up the knife and tested its edge. It was sharp. She smiled again, the same smile she had given the recording. Then she got to work. The jungle of 7 was alive with danger. Poisonous plants grew everywhere. Predatory animals stalked through the shadows. The air itself was thick and hot, filled with moisture that made every breath feel heavy. Most prey cadets would spend their 12 hours running. They would find a cave or a hole and hide. They would make themselves small and pray that the hunters could not find them. Did not run, did not hide. She moved through the jungle with purpose. Her eyes scanned everything. She noted the shape of the trees, the direction of water flow, the animal trails that crossed the ground. Her grandmother had taught her to read the land like a book. Every detail told a story. By the second hour, she had found a river. She followed it upstream until she discovered a small waterfall. The water was clean here, fed by an underground spring. She filled her purifier and drank deep. By the fourth hour, she had mapped 3 kilometers of terrain in her head. She knew where the ground was soft and where it was hard. She knew which trees could hold her weight and which would break. She knew where the poisonous plants grew thickest. By the 6th hour, she had identified a particular flower. It was small and purple with a sweet smell. Her survival training had taught her about this flower. It produced a neurotoxin that could paralyze most carbon-based life forms. The effect was not immediate. It took several minutes to work, but once it did, the victim could not move for hours. She collected the flowers carefully. She extracted their poison using her water purifier, separating the deadly liquid from the harmless petals. She coated her knife with it. She coated several sharpened sticks with it. By the 10th hour, she had built her first trap. It was a pit, 2 meters deep, covered with leaves and branches. The bottom was filled with sharpened stakes. Each stake was coated with the purple flower poison. Most species would see the pit for what it was. The covering was not perfect, but had not built this trap for most species. She had built it for one species in particular. There were shadow hunters. They could phase through solid matter for short periods. Walls could not stop them. Doors could not stop them. They were considered the perfect assassins because nothing physical could block their path. But they could not phase through liquids. Their bodies would solidify the moment they touched water or any other liquid substance. It was their only weakness. A pit full of poison-coated stakes was not a barrier to a. They would simply phase through the stakes and land safely on the ground below. Unless the stakes were wet with poison. Unless their bodies around the stakes the moment they phased through. Smiled as she finished the trap. She covered it carefully and moved on. The twin suns began to set. Orange and red light filtered through the canopy. Somewhere in the distance, a predator howled. The jungle was waking up for its night hunt. And so were her hunters. Climbed a tall tree and watched the sky. 10 drop pods fell from orbit, leaving trails of fire behind them. They landed in a wide circle around her position. The hunters had been given her general location. Now they would track her. She settled into the branches and waited. The first hunter found her trail within 2 hours. She watched him approach through the darkness. He was his body flickering between solid and shadow. His name was, and he was considered the best tracker among the shadow hunters. Moved with confidence, he had hunted hundreds of prey across dozens of worlds. He had never failed to make a kill. A small human female would be easy prey. He found her footprints near the river. He followed them upstream. He found the place where she had collected flowers. He found the place where she had knelt to work. The trail led toward a thick cluster of trees. Smiled. The human was probably hiding in there, shaking with fear. He phased through the first tree. Nothing. He phased through the second tree. Nothing. He phased through the third tree and felt the ground disappear beneath him. The pit was 2 meters deep. The stakes were sharp. The poison was fresh. Tried to phase out, but his body was already solidifying around the stakes. The poison was entering his wounds, spreading through his blood. He opened his mouth to scream. Dropped from a tree branch above the pit. She landed at the edge and looked down at the dying. "You were fast," she said, "but you were predictable." Tried to speak. His mouth moved, but no words came out. The poison had reached his throat. Waited until he stopped moving. Then she climbed down into the pit with her knife. When she climbed out, she carried his skull in her hand. 1 down, 9 to go. The night passed slowly, moved through the jungle like a ghost. She built more traps. She set more snares. She prepared the battlefield for what was coming. At dawn, she heard the hunters calling to each other. They had found's body. They had found the empty skull. The sounds of their rage echoed through the jungle. Good, let them be angry. Angry hunters made mistakes. The second kill came on the afternoon of the first day. A named was tracking her through a rocky canyon, where massive creatures, over 2 meters tall and nearly as wide. Their skin was like stone. Their strength was legendary. But they were heavy, very heavy. Led him up a cliff path. The path was narrow, barely wide enough for her to walk. For the massive, it was a tight squeeze. She had spent an hour that morning cutting the rocks beneath the path, not all the way through, just enough to weaken them. Followed her around a corner and felt the ground crack beneath his feet. He tried to grab the cliff wall, but his fingers found only loose stone. He fell 40 meters into the canyon below. The fall did not kill him, were tough, but his legs were broken and he could not climb out of the canyon. Took her time climbing down to him. She approached carefully, knife in hand. Roared at her. He swung his massive arms, but she stayed out of reach. "Fight me properly," he screamed. "Fight me with honor." Tilted her head. "You want to hunt me like an animal, but you want me to fight you with honor." She waited, had strong hearts but broken bones still bled. After an hour was too weak to swing his arms. After 2 hours he stopped moving. Collected her second skull. The third kill was These hunters were serpent-like creatures with poison-tipped tails. They tracked prey by scent, following trails that were days old. Used this against them. She left a clear trail leading to a cave. The trail was so obvious that a child could follow it. That was suspicious. He circled the cave entrance twice looking for traps. He found nothing. No pits, no snares, no deadfalls. He entered the cave. The trap was not at the entrance. The trap was inside. Had spent hours preparing the ceiling, loosening the stones, balancing them on thin supports. A single rope connected them all. When there was deep inside the cave, pulled the rope. The ceiling came down. 3 skulls now hung from her belt. On the second day, 2 blade dancers caught up with her at the river. They were fast, faster than any creature she had ever seen. Their blades hummed with energy. They attacked in perfect coordination, one high and one low. Dove into the river. They laughed and sheathed their blades. They would simply wait for her to come out. But did not come out. She swam downstream, holding her breath for longer than the thought possible. When she finally surfaced, she was 300 meters away. She had left a gift for them at the river. 2 water containers filled with clear liquid. They were tired from tracking. The day was hot. The water looked clean. It was not water. It was concentrated poison from the purple flowers, mixed with river water to hide the color. They drank deep. They were dead before sunset. 5 skulls, 5 kills. Half of her hunters were gone and only 2 days had passed. That night allowed herself to rest. She climbed to the top of the tallest tree she could find and wedged herself into the branches. Her body ached. Her hands were blistered. She had not slept in over 40 hours. But she was alive, and somewhere out there, 5 hunters were realizing that they were no longer the predators. They were the prey. The 5 remaining hunters gathered at dawn on the 3rd day. They stood in a circle around the remains of their fallen comrades. The skulls were gone. Only bones and torn flesh remained. Looked at each survivor in turn. There was the last, a mountain of muscle and rage. There was the remaining, her tail twitching with nervous energy. And there were the 2 brothers and Knox, who had sworn to avenge their fallen. "She is killing us one by one," said. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with fury. "She is using the jungle against us. She is using our own hunting methods against us. This cannot continue." "She is just one human," growled. "One small, weak human. How is she doing this?" Hissed softly. "The human is not weak. We were fools to think so. She has been watching us, learning us. She knows how we hunt, and she has found ways to counter each of us." "Then we change how we hunt," said. He drew one of his 4 swords and drove it into the ground. "No more individual hunting. From this moment we hunt as a pack, we stay together, we watch each other. She cannot trap all of us at once." This was against the rules. The proving hunt was meant to be a test of individual skill. Hunters who worked together would be disqualified. But the rules did not matter anymore. This was no longer about graduation. This was about survival. This was about pride. 5 elite hunters had been humiliated by a single human, and the entire galaxy was watching. They moved out together, following's trail through the jungle. Led the way, her forked tongue tasting the air for scent. The brothers flanked the group, their bodies flickering in and out of shadow. Brought up the rear, his massive fists ready to crush anything that moved. Walked in the center, his 4 blades drawn and humming. They tracked her for 2 days. Knew they were coming. She had been watching them since they gathered. She had seen them make their pact. She had seen them abandon the rules of the hunt. This was unexpected. She had planned to kill them one by one, using their individual weaknesses against them. A pack was different. A pack protected each other. A pack was hard to trap. But a pack could also be led. Began her game on the morning of the 4th day. She let them catch glimpses of her through the trees, just a flash of movement, just a hint of color, enough to keep them following. She led them through the most dangerous parts of the jungle. Poisonous plants scratched at their legs. Predatory animals circled at the edges of their vision. The ground became soft and treacherous. The pack was careful. They avoided her obvious traps. They did not drink from rivers. They did not enter caves. They stayed together. But they were not sleeping. They were not eating. They were using all their energy to track her, and she was using all her skill to stay just ahead of them. On the 5th day, made a mistake, or at least it looked like a mistake. She stumbled into a clearing. She fell. She lay on the ground, gasping for breath. Her body was covered in cuts and bruises. Her movements were slow and clumsy. The pack surrounded her within minutes. They approached from all sides, cutting off every escape route. Walked forward slowly. His blades hummed with deadly energy. His red scales gleamed in the sunlight. He had dreamed of this moment for 3 years. "Impressive human," he said. "You have made this hunt memorable. You have killed 5 of us. You have shamed our species, but it ends now. You are finished." Looked up at him. Her eyes were swollen. Her lips were cracked. Blood ran down her face from a wound on her forehead. But she was smiling. "You still do not understand," she said. Her voice was weak, but her words were clear. "I was not running from you. I was leading you here." Look down. His foot rested on disturbed soil. For one long moment, nobody moved. Then lifted his foot and looked at what was beneath it. A thin piece of wire stretched across the ground, connected to something buried in the earth. "Move!" screamed. The explosion was enormous. Had spent an entire day preparing this trap. She had collected explosive compounds from certain plants and minerals found in the jungle. She had packed them into a shallow pit. She had mixed in fragments of metal from her survival kit, along with pieces of blades she had taken from her earlier kills. When the wire triggered the explosion, the clearing became a storm of fire and metal. Took the full force of the blast. That was tough, but nothing was tough enough to survive that. He was dead before he hit the ground. The brothers tried to phase out of danger, but the explosion was too fast. Shrapnel tore through Knox before he could fully shift. He collapsed in a pool of blood. Managed to escape the worst of the blast. He flickered into shadow form and retreated, but a piece of metal had caught his arm. He was wounded and bleeding. Had been standing behind. When the explosion came, spun and grabbed her, using her body as a shield. The metal fragments tore into her instead of him. She died in his arms, her poison tail twitching one last time. The smoke cleared slowly, stood alone in the center of the clearing. His armor was scorched. His body was burned. but he was alive. Appeared beside him, clutching his wounded arm. She killed them, whispered. She killed all of them. Said nothing. He stared at the place where had been lying. She was gone. In the chaos of the explosion, she had slipped away. He looked at the ground where she had fallen. Something caught his eye, a mark in the dirt, a symbol. It was a human handprint. Next to it, scratched into the soil, were two words in Galactic Common. Still hunting. Felt something he had never felt before. It was cold and heavy, and it settled in his chest like a stone. It took him a long moment to recognize it. Fear, he was afraid. We need to leave, said. His voice was shaking. We need to call for extraction. This hunt is over. No, his voice was hard. If we run now, we lose everything. Our honor, our reputation, our place in the academy. I will not let a human take that from me. She has already taken it, screamed. Look around you. 8 of us are dead. 8 of the finest hunters in the academy killed by a single prey cadet. This is not a hunt anymore. This is a slaughter, and we are the ones being slaughtered. Turned to face his eyes were empty and cold. Then you run, he said. Run back to the extraction point. Call for help. Tell them that was too afraid to finish his hunt. Stared at him. Then he turned and ran. His shadowy form flickered through the jungle, desperate to escape. He made it almost a kilometer before he triggered his next trap. It was simple, a rope snare connected to a bent tree. The rope caught his leg and yanked him into the air. He hung there, upside down, unable to phase out because the rope was soaked in water. Emerged from the shadows, she was still bleeding, she was still wounded, but her knife was sharp and her eyes were steady. Please, begged. Please, I surrender, I give up, just let me go. Tilted her head. Did you let any of your prey go when they begged? Had no answer. The jungle swallowed his screams. Collected her 9th skull and began hunting for the 10th. Was alone now. The greatest blade dancer of his generation. The hunter who had never failed. He stood in the ruins of the clearing, surrounded by the bodies of his pack, and he understood something that his people had forgotten long ago. Humans were not prey. They had never been prey. They had simply been waiting for the right moment to show the galaxy what they truly were. And what they truly were was terrifying. Ran. For the first time in his 200 years of life, a blade dancer fled from prey. His 4 legs carried him through the jungle at incredible speed. His 4 arms pushed branches aside. His heart pounded in his chest like a war drum. He did not know where he was going. He only knew that he had to get away. Away from the clearing, away from the bodies, away from the human who had turned his hunt into a nightmare. His honor screamed at him. Turn back, it demanded. Face her like a warrior. Die with your blades in your hands. But another voice was louder, a voice he had never heard before, the voice of fear. She is coming, the voice whispered. She is behind you. She will never stop. Ran faster. He crashed through the jungle like a wild animal. Branches cut his face. Thorns tore his scales. He did not care. He only wanted to escape. He ran until his legs gave out. He collapsed beside a stream, his body shaking with exhaustion. He had been running for hours. Surely he had lost her. Surely she could not have followed him this far. He looked back the way he had come. The jungle was dark and silent. Nothing moved. Nothing made a sound. Allowed himself to breathe. He drank from the stream, checking the water carefully for poison first. He tended to his burns and cuts. He tried to calm his racing heart. Then he saw it, a footprint in the mud beside the stream, a small human footprint, fresh. She was here, she was close. Jumped to his feet, his blades drawn. He spun in a circle, searching the shadows. Come out, he screamed. Face me, fight me like a warrior. The jungle did not answer. Began to walk downstream. His eyes scanned every shadow. His ears strained for every sound. His hands gripped his blades so tightly that his knuckles ached. Every few minutes he found another sign of her presence. A broken branch, a disturbed leaf, a faint impression in the soft earth. She was following him. She was always just behind him, just out of sight. The first night was the worst. Could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face. That small, calm face with those dark, steady eyes. He heard her voice in his head. "You talk a lot. I wonder if you will talk this much when you are dying." He got up and kept walking. The second day, he began to see things that were not there. Shadows moved at the corners of his vision. Sounds came from impossible directions. He spun and slashed at empty air, convinced that she was about to strike. She never struck, she just followed. By the third night was breaking. His body was exhausted. His mind was crumbling. He had not eaten in days. He had not slept in longer. He collapsed at the base of a tree and began to laugh. The laughter was wild and broken, the sound of a hunter who had become prey. "What are you?" he screamed into the darkness. "What kind of creature are you?" A voice answered from somewhere above him. "I am human." Looked up. She was sitting in the branches of the tree, watching him. She looked terrible. Her body was covered in wounds. One of her arms hung at an odd angle, clearly broken. Her face was pale and thin. But her eyes were still steady, still calm, still hunting. Hal whispered, "How are you still alive? How are you still coming?" Dropped from the tree. She landed in front of him, her knife in her good hand. She swayed on her feet, barely able to stand. "My grandmother told me a story once," she said. Her voice was raw from thirst and exhaustion. "About hunters in the old mountains of Korea. They hunted tigers. Do you know what a tiger is?" Shook his head slowly. A tiger was a predator, big, fast, deadly. It could kill a man with one swipe of its paw. It was the most dangerous animal in the mountains. Took a step forward, raised his blades, but his arms were shaking. The hunters did not try to fight the tiger directly. They knew they would lose. Instead, they followed it. They tracked it day and night, never letting it rest, never letting it eat, never letting it sleep. They followed it until it was too tired to run. Then they killed it. She took another step forward. Her knife gleamed in the moonlight. This technique had a name: persistence hunting. Humans are not the fastest creatures. We are not the strongest, but we can run longer than anything else. We can track longer than anything else. We can endure longer than anything else. Backed away until he hit a rock wall. He had run so far that he had reached the edge of a cliff. "Your people evolved as predators," continued. "You hunt because it is in your blood. You kill because you are built for it. Every instinct tells you to chase, to strike, to destroy." She stopped in front of him. They were less than a meter apart now. "Humans evolved as everything: prey, predator, farmer, builder. We hunted mammoths with sticks. We crossed oceans in wooden boats. We crawled out of the ashes of a dead planet and built ships to carry us to the stars." Lashed out with his blades. It was a desperate strike, fast and wild. A week ago, it would have cut her in half. But he was weak now, slow, broken. Stepped inside his reach. His blades cut her shoulder, adding another wound to her collection. But her knife found the gap in his armor, the soft spot beneath his arm where his scales did not cover. The blade sank deep. Gasped, his blades fell from his hands. He slid down the rock wall, his strength leaving him. Knelt beside him, her face was close to his. "You made a mistake," she whispered. "You made me feel like prey. You made me feel small and weak and worthless. For 3 years, you and your kind reminded me every day that humans did not belong among warriors." She twisted the knife, screamed. "But the thing about humans is this: the more you push us down, the harder we push back. The more you try to break us, the stronger we become. We do not know how to give up. We do not know how to surrender. We only know how to survive." She pulled the knife out. Blood poured from the wound. "And the only thing humans hate more than dying is being underestimated." Looked up at her. His vision was fading. His body was growing cold. But he managed to speak one last time. "You are no prey," he said. His voice was barely a whisper. "You never were. What are you?" Stood up, she looked down at the dying hunter with something that might have been pity. "I am the reason my species survived," she said. "I am the thing that hunted the hunters. I am the nightmare that predators have forgotten to fear." She raised her knife. "I am human." The jungle was quiet after that. The twin moons rose over 7, casting silver light across the landscape. Somewhere in the distance, a predator howled. Sat beside the cliff for a long time. Her body was broken. Her mind was exhausted. She had given everything she had to this hunt, and now there was nothing left. But she was alive, and in her hand she held the 10th skull. She looked at it in the moonlight. It was large and red, the skull of a blade dancer, the skull of the finest hunter of his generation. She added it to the 9 others hanging from her belt. Then she stood up. Her legs shook, her vision blurred, but she started walking anyway. The extraction point was 20 kilometers away. The hunt was officially over in 3 days. She had a long walk ahead of her. But humans were good at long walks. They had been walking since the beginning of their species, walking across continents, walking across oceans, walking across the stars. One more walk was nothing. Put one foot in front of the other and began her journey home. The Galactic Military Academy station was quiet during the evening meal. 300 cadets from dozens of species sat in the great hall, eating and talking in low voices. The mood was somber. Everyone knew about the hunt on 7. Everyone knew what had happened. 10 of the finest hunters in the academy had gone down to kill one human. None of them had returned. The official word was that Cadet Park had also died. The hunt had been a mutual destruction. All participants had fallen. It was a tragedy, they said, a waste of talented warriors. But rumors had begun to spread. Whispers in the corridors, nervous glances among the cadets. Someone had intercepted a transmission from the planet's surface. Someone had seen a life sign moving toward the extraction point. Someone claimed they had seen a shuttle launch from the jungle moon just that morning. Commander Rowe sat alone at a small table in the corner of the hall. He had not eaten in days. He had not slept in longer. He blamed himself. He had supported its application. He had believed she could prove humanity's worth to the galaxy. Now she was dead, and 10 alien cadets were dead with her, and the diplomatic situation was a disaster. 3 species had already filed formal complaints. 2 more were threatening to withdraw from the academy entirely. Rowe stared at his untouched food and wondered how everything had gone so wrong. The doors of the great hall opened. At first, no one noticed. The doors opened and closed all the time, but then the conversations began to stop. One table fell silent, then another, then another. The silence spread like a wave across the hall until every voice had died. Rowe looked up, stood in the doorway. She was barely recognizable. Her uniform was destroyed, hanging from her body in torn strips. Her skin was covered in cuts, burns, and bruises. One arm was bound to her chest with strips of cloth. She stood crookedly, favoring her right leg. But she was standing, she was breathing, she was alive. She dragged something behind her. It was a cargo net, heavy and bulging with strange shapes. The net scraped across the floor as she walked, leaving a trail of dirt and dried blood. Every eye in the hall watched her. 300 cadets frozen in their seats. Teachers and officers at the high table, their food forgotten. Even the servants had stopped moving. Walked slowly down the center of the hall. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. Each step seemed to take forever. Each step seemed impossible. She stopped in front of the hunt master's table. Sat there, his ancient gray scales dull in the light. He watched her approach with an expression that no one could read. Released the cargo net. It fell open, and its contents spilled across the floor. 10 skulls, cleaned, preserved, arranged with military precision as they rolled to a stop its feet. For a long moment no one moved, no one spoke. The hall was as silent as a tomb. Then straightened her back, she lifted her chin, and she spoke in a voice that carried to every corner of the great hall. Cadet Park reporting completion of the proving hunt. All designated hunters have been eliminated. I am formally requesting graduation. The silence stretched, stared at the skulls. He reached down and picked one up. It was Skull. The red scales were still attached in places. 10 hunters, said slowly. 10 of our finest cadets, all dead, all killed by a single prey. Said nothing. She stood straight and still, waiting. In 10,000 years of Academy history, continued, no prey has ever killed all their hunters. No prey has ever returned their skulls. No prey has ever stood before me and demanded graduation as if it were their right. He set Skull down gently. Until today. The old rose from his seat. He was massive, even in his ancient age. He towered over like a mountain over a stone. And then he did something that no hunt master had done in 3,000 years. He bowed. Not a small bow, not a nod of acknowledgement. A full bow, deep and formal, the bow it gave only to a warrior of the highest honor. The hunt acknowledges your victory, Cadet Park said. You have proven that humans are not prey. You have proven that your species is not weak. You are something far more dangerous than we understood. You are survivors. You are hunters who wear the mask of the hunted until the moment you are ready to strike. He straightened and looked out at the hall full of stunned cadets. Let this day be remembered. Let this hunt be recorded in our histories. And let all species know that humanity has earned its place among the warriors of the galaxy. Silence held for another heartbeat. Then Commander Rowe began to clap. The sound was lonely in the quiet hall, but then another pair of hands joined in, then another, then another. Not everyone clapped. Many of the aliens sat in stunned silence or angry resentment, but enough of them recognized what had happened. Enough of them respected strength and skill and survival. Enough of them understood that they had just witnessed history. The applause built until it filled the hall like thunder. Did not acknowledge it. She did not smile or wave or speak. She simply stood there, bloody and broken and victorious, and let the sound wash over her. When the applause finally died, she spoke again. I have a message for every species in this hall. For every race that has ever looked at humans and seen weakness. She turned slowly, meeting the eyes of cadets across the hall. We do not hunt for sport. We do not hunt for honor. We do not hunt because we enjoy killing. We hunt because something threatened us and we refuse to die quietly. Her voice grew harder. Every species in this galaxy has underestimated us. You look at our small bodies and our short lives, and you see prey animals who got lucky. You see creatures who stumbled into space by accident. You see weak, soft, fragile beings who do not deserve to stand beside you. She paused. You are wrong, you have always been wrong, and now you know why. She turned and began to walk toward the door. The crowd parted for her like water around a stone. No one tried to stop her. No one spoke to her. They simply watched her go. At the door, she stopped and looked back one last time. Tell your species what happened here. Tell them what humans are capable of. And tell them this, we are not your enemies. We do not want war. We want only to be treated as equals, as partners, as allies. Her eyes hardened. But if any species ever hunts us again, we will do what we have always done. We will survive. We will adapt, and we will hunt back. She walked out of the hall. The doors closed behind her. 3 months later, returned home. The colony ship hung in orbit around a small yellow star, carrying the last survivors of the Korean peninsula to their new home. Her brother was waiting for her at the docking bay. He was 16 now, tall and thin, with their mother's eyes and their father's stubborn chin. When he saw emerge from the shuttle, he ran to her. He threw his arms around her and held her tight. He was crying, she realized. Her little brother, who always tried to be so tough, was crying. "I thought you were dead," he said into her shoulder. "I saw your message, I thought I lost you." Held him close. She breathed in the familiar smell of the recycled air and metal and home. "I told you not to cry," she said gently. "I told you I would make them remember." Pulled back and looked at her. His eyes were red and wet. Did they remember? Smiled. It was not the predator's smile she had worn on Seven. It was a real smile, warm and tired and full of something like peace. "They will never forget," she said. They walked together through the corridors of the people stopped to stare at as she passed. Word had spread. Everyone knew what she had done. Everyone knew what it meant. Asked her the question that had been burning in his mind for months. "What did you learn at the academy? What did 3 years out there teach you?" Thought about the question for a long time. She thought about the training and the mockery. She thought about the hunt and the killing. She thought about his face in his final moments, the fear in his eyes when he finally understood what humans truly were. She thought about her grandmother's stories, about tiger hunters and ice ages and dead planets and ships that carried hope across the stars. "I learned that we belong out here," she said finally, "just as much as anyone else. I learned that humans are not prey and we never were. We are survivors. We are builders. We are stubborn, stupid, beautiful creatures who refuse to give up no matter how hard the universe tries to break us." She stopped walking and looked at her brother. "And now, so does the rest of the galaxy." Smiled. It was the same smile had given the recording before the hunt. The smile of a human who knew exactly what their species was capable of. "Good," he said. "Then let us show them what we can do next." They walked on together, into the heart of the ship, into the future that humanity was building for itself among the stars. Behind them, through the viewing ports, the galaxy stretched out infinite and full of possibility, full of dangers, full of wonders, full of species who now knew once and for all that humans were not prey. They were something far more dangerous. They were survivors. And survivors always found a way.